Welcome to Marathon Champions, the podcast where running legends Benji Durden, Bill Rogers, and Ron Tabb share their timeless wisdom on marathon training and inspire listeners with their wealth of experience. These champions continue to impact the running world today.
The Benji, Billy, and Ronnie show.
Yeah.
Hey, Bobby, I got a question for you. I don't know. Did you come down to Houston in '79?
I think it was 81.
Okay, so I was wondering, because there were a bunch of
National 20K.
a bunch of the Boston guys came down in
Yeah.
or in '79, and I think that was the national championships for the marathon. And I entertained Dick Mahoney was there. Trying to remember some of the other Boston guys that came down.
I did run Houston Marathon once, but I ran a 20K there. It was a national 20K in 1981. We had a team. It ended up being a short course. We made a wrong turn somewhere. So I ran about 58 minutes for 20K.
Oh, nice.
I thought that you were there, but maybe not.
No, I'd already left Houston by then.
Yeah. Okay.
That 20K was like that marathon. What is Rotorua, or whatever?
Oh, yeah. In New Zealand, yeah.
Everybody ran under 208 or around 208.
Yeah. And that was really a shame because
they were all running pretty fast. It just screwed up.
They were all running good times. Yeah. Yeah.
Bobby, we were talking about your book here before you came on, and I was commenting that I read it, and I'm going. I thought there was so much more that you could have added to that. I know that that's a lot of work.
Most of my friends don't have a big attention span, so I didn't want to, So I had to include a lot of pictures and keep it short.
You turned anyone special or all runners?
Yeah, well, you might be one of those guilty parties. No, it's more, I had written all these little one-offs. A lot of them weren't even completed, really. And I had, shared them on Facebook with people. And then a friend of mine, Tom Murphy, who helped to publish the book. I was never intending to do a book at that time, but I was writing a lot of stuff. So I would just, say, be in a coffee shop and think of something, hear something on the radio, and it would remind me of something, and I would jot something down. I was, let me save that. Sometimes I would just keep writing, and next thing you know, it'd be 1,000 words or whatever. And that's what became the book. So that's why it's kind of a mess, but it's, all the stories were just kind of thrown together in somewhat of a chronological order. And I kind of like it. There are things that I like about it, of course, and then there are things that you wish you had done differently. But in any case, it's out there. It's available. It's in some libraries. You can still get it on Amazon. I had 500 copies that I just had to sell or give away, and those are gone. So when I first got them, it was a huge piles of books everywhere, and I was like, what am I going to do with all these books?
Well, Bob, if you wanted to buy this book, which I highly recommend myself, I'm sure Benji
only $14.99.
Yeah, and how would they get that from you? Would they contact you?
They can contact me, but the easiest way to get it is on Amazon. There are a handful of bookstores that have it.
Yes.
If you're in Eugene, the Eugene Running Company has been nice enough to have some. But they're few and far between, the retailers that have it. I was just down in Falmouth a few days ago. There's a bookstore in Falmouth Main Street that has done really well with the book. In fact, Falmouth 3-time champion Ben Flanagan walked in there, bought my book, didn't know me, or, he saw some pictures, with the Great Boston and Greg Meyer, University of Michigan and everything. And he read the book. But after the race, he came to the Crow's Nest, our little room at the finish line, and I met him. And as he was leaving, I said, hey, Ben, would you like a copy of my book? And he said, this is your book? He said, I love this book. He had bought a copy on Main Street of Falmouth. So that was pretty funny. That was pretty cool.
Bob, in looking at your book and reviewing things, and how you grew up in Lowell, can you tell us
Oh, yes.
can you tell us a little bit about your beginnings as a runner and how
This
you
is
went
this is me and Ben at
up?
Falmouth with the book. Can you
Yeah,
see that?
he's a
Yeah.
terrific
Kind
runner.
of.
Racer.
Lowell, Mass. Yeah. It's famous hometown of Jack Kerouac, Betty Davis, Ed McMahon. Uh, so yeah, growing up there was an experience. When I first got out in the world, I would tell people I was from Lowell, and they'd sort of go, "Oh, whoa, whoa." It was like a rough town or something. But no, Lowell got transformed in the 70s. It was industrial revolution. That's what it's famous for. All its mills along the Merrimack River. And Paul Tsongas, our senator, who actually ran for president later, unsuccessfully, of course. But he instigated this whole urban national park idea. So all of the canals, Lowell's got a little Venice, It's they had all the canals to power the mills, and so that's the kind of town, old New England mill town, pretty
It's,
big place,
it's
100,000 people.
yeah, it's not a little town, it's a city.
No, I
Really.
live in Clinton, Mass now, which is a town of 13,000. So it's like a mini Lowell.
Yeah. But you got your start. You delivered newspapers as a kid, like I did, and
Yeah,
many of
yeah,
us did in those days. Now there
oh,
aren't many newspapers
yeah,
left, but
yeah.
but
I think that's in my book, my
yeah,
newspaper.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
sure. But you became a
I
very
remember the first time I delivered this one newspaper, and Bill probably is aware of this. Boston Record American was a paper, and back then they had Boston Herald, and they merged. And so one Sunday after they merged, the Sunday newspaper showed up on my deck and on my front stoop of my tenement house that we lived in, and I almost passed out because it was like 10 feet in the air, and I delivered them on my I don't even know if I had a bike when I first got the route. I was the last kid in Lowell, Mass to get a bike. But anyway, yeah, I didn't last too long. A lot of my customers were, not paying me or whatever. And it was a lot of effort. But
well,
anyway,
you had like 75
it's
customers.
never a businessman, Bill, like you.
I had 27 customers. My little mini.
27.
Yeah,
I had about 127.
yeah, that's
Well, that was about how many I had, but I did it while I was in college. I delivered
Yeah.
newspapers out of my VW Bug.
Oh,
And
man, just throw them at the people's houses.
yeah, and you'd have to rubber band, to roll them
Oh,
up,
yeah.
rubber band them, and then pitch them out the window. And I got to where I could drive with my knees. I'd steer with my knees, and I'd be rubber banding and pitching out of each side of the VW. But I could accurately hit porches on either side.
You were a conductor.
delivering the newspaper as a youth is the most American thing you can do, other
Could-
than excluding the
could-
flag. You know what
It
I'm
Until
was.
you
saying?
It's
wake
no
up and
longer.
realize
That's
you've
not
been
happening
working cheap.
anymore.
This generation today, they're missing out on all the fun. The people that didn't have the change, they couldn't pay you this week and all that. It was kind of fun,
A lot of customers would put the money in an envelope and hide it somewhere in the milk box, under the mat. So you'd have to know. I had a little black book I used to keep notes in, which I learned from a friend of mine who was more successful delivering newspapers than I was.
But Bob,
But yeah, it's good beginning.
didn't you become a runner because you tried baseball, you thought it was boring. But why
Yeah.
did you recruited by one of your friends in high school or something like that, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was the gym teacher, the phys ed teacher. Just the only thing I liked about baseball was getting on base and stealing bases, because nobody's very good. No, there aren't many catchers who can throw it down to second base, and if you get a halfway decent runner, you could steal bases. So I like doing that, and my phys ed teacher just offhandedly said, "Why don't you go out for the cross country team?" And there was another kid there in my gym class who was already on the team, so he took me to practice. But I had no idea what cross country was. Like, to me, running was, you line up and you race, I mean, I wasn't too sophisticated about that. I learned my first race ever was at Franklin Park. It was, which is pretty big race to be a first race ever. It was Catholic Memorial Invitational, but they had a freshman sophomore division, so it was just 1.1 miles. So after that first day, it was like a big adventure. Got on a bus, went to Boston. Oh my goodness, went to Boston. It was big time. So yeah, that's where I got excited, and I dropped baseball like a bad habit.
But you also succeeded pretty rapidly, and especially I was reading your senior year. I mean, you ran quite a good 2 mile without the fast shoes. The younger generation is duking it out today.
Yeah. 2 mile in high school, I ran 9:17. But in 1973, that didn't even make the top 100 in the country. 9:17, and that's still it's still the school record. It's still the outdoor school record at my high school over 50 years. But anyway,
Bob,
there were a lot of good runners. You had to know your place. If you were going to be a good runner, you had to know who else was out there.
You were successful in high school, but well, like me, I didn't get a scholarship offer. I don't know, Benji and Ron probably didn't either, and most people don't.
I had $100 scholarship.
Oh, there you go.
$100.
Yeah, the big money.
Yeah.
I walked on and got a scholarship, but I didn't start with them.
That's pretty good.
But I had if you read my book, I had a very checkered academic career there.
That's what I was trying to hear. Can you tell us a little?
Yeah, I don't know why I had that frame of mind. I just I didn't think I would go to college, and I did get a letter, which I think I still have somewhere in my office here, from Bob Timmons at KU.
Wow.
Of course, he sent the same letter to about 150 people. So you weren't. I talked to another person who got the same letter. Like years later. But I was thrilled because, oh wow, Jim Ryan was one of my first heroes in the sport, and I said, wow, if I actually was a good student or cared to be even a decent student, I probably could have went to a D1 school. I was fourth in the Mass State meet in high school, so that was pretty good. But I wasn't, I think academically, I just didn't have it. And I really didn't care if I went. But I ended up getting a scholarship to Johnson and Wales, a junior college. And that kind of got me on my way. Otherwise, I would have just been gone to work like a lot of my friends did. I would have got a trade or whatever. I didn't see any point, I didn't understand running beyond, high school and college. It didn't make any sense to me until I met you guys, Greater Boston. If I hadn't fallen in with you guys, I don't know.
Yes.
Running was changing a lot then. Of course, we were at the height of the 70s and the running boom, and running was becoming popular as just an activity. And, I was becoming of age just before that. So my timing was pretty good. It would have been a little better if it would have been more in the prize money era, but
yeah, I mean,
we only caught the beginnings of
yes.
the money era, and then the way things have developed. It's well.
You met Vinnie Fleming, who is a.
That's right. Yeah, we went to Johnson and Wales together. That's where I met Vinnie.
And he later joined Greater Boston. He was a Greater Boston guy from Jamaica Plain.
Yeah. I saw the results of the Falmouth Road Race. My father pointed it out to me in the Boston Globe. 1974 results where you beat Marty LaQuarrie, and that was big time, right?
Marty, he
and
didn't know the Greater Boston was waiting for him.
You said, I would be ashamed if a miler beat me in a 7-mile race.
And
that was one of your quotes.
Yeah.
But anyway, I thought that Vinny finished in the top 10 or something, and a bunch of Greater Boston guys. So we wound up getting together, and that's how I met you, way back then in 74. And anyway, I had raced you in 73 when I was 18 years old in the Manchester Thanksgiving Day race. And we were like 6th and 7th, and we had duked it out,
Yeah.
But in 74, Bill Rogers was nobody. He was just a guy going to grad school.
I think Steve Flanagan ran that day too, maybe. Steve Flanagan, Lane's dad.
Amby probably got the win. I forget.
Yes.
Where the whole top 10, actually, I think there's a photo in my book of the top 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You started exploring the sport, and you were off and on about it. And I know you did a lot of traveling around the country. You were into hiking, and so you're kind of like the younger generation. A lot of the younger generation is today. We want to be outdoors and everything. And I think we were the same way, Benji and Ron. We were the same, and we were all kind of like trying to found a path back to running. I quit running.
Yeah.
You were off and on about it too. I don't know about Benji and Ron, but it took a while to have some substance, to find a coach or a shoe company. No one cared about us, That's the way
I knew I loved to run and compete. I just didn't see, much of a future there necessarily. And I went on this cross-country trip, which is outlined a little bit in my book. And that was, in lieu of going to college. I went out to try to understand what's going on in the country and just to travel a little bit and live a little bit, because the friends I traveled with from Lowell, they were just going to go back to Lowell and get jobs. We just wanted to do something, get out of Lowell for a little while. And we spent almost a year, and we did all this planning. And we would talk about it every weekend when we went to play pool in some bar in Lowell. And I don't know if we ever thought we would really do it. And then we did it, and we got a van and we fixed it up and we went out and did it. So all the time that I was traveling, I was running every day. I never missed a day of running. And I got my friends into running. And a friend of mine went to a race with me once in Cohasset. When we got back in 1978, I got him to give me a ride. And my friend Sharpless Jones, who was thinking about hiring me in his retail running store, said, "Why don't you come down and run this race?" And he gave me one of his shirt for his business called the Runnery. And so I wore the shirt and I won the race, and I got a free dinner at this Red Lion Inn, very fancy place, So I took my friend there who'd driven me down, and then Tommy Leonard was there, and he said, he told the owner, "You should give this guy champagne because he won the race." So I'm sitting there with my friend Stevie, and we're drinking champagne, and he's eating lobster. And he said, "Bob, if you ever need a ride to any other races," I said, "Stevie, they're not all like this. This is like a one-off, These are friends of mine, so I'm getting all the special treatment because I won." But, little events like that, those are the kind of things that keep you going. And, of course, when Sharpless hired me, that was a big thing, too, because it gave me a way to, stay alive, make some money. And also I was working in a running store. So I was, talking with other runners. So it didn't even really seem like work.
Tell us about the place you lived.
What's that?
Tell us about
when I first moved down there, I didn't have anywhere to live. So first I stayed with Sharpless. I was like a gypsy, I'd stay with somebody. Sharpless's grandmother put me up for a while. But then I just, in the basement of the store, we had started a resoling shoes business. And I was the person that had to learn. I went to a cobbler and I learned rudimentary skills. And but I ended up setting up an apartment for myself in the basement of the store. And when we needed to take showers after we ran, the building didn't have a shower, so we hooked up a garden hose to the kitchen sink, and we marked off the two, hot and cold with a little marker, so we knew where to set it. And we just threw the hose out the window, went out back, came back from around. Just of course, it didn't work too well in the winter. But, but by the winter time, I think I lived in the store for 3 or 4 months. And then I finally, I got a small deal with New Balance, and that got me over the hump so that I could get an apartment. I mean, apartments weren't that expensive. I still didn't have a car, but my apartment was 3 miles from work. So I would either run or ride my bicycle to work. And the good old days, it was actually a good time. And I really improved with my running because of Greater Boston. When if you qualified, we go to Penn Relays. You qualified for nationals, so send you to nationals, and so on. And a lot of weekends, we just all hopped in a car and we drive to Newark or some other garden spot like that and run a race. And we had a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun. It was the main thing, and we all improved together. We really knocked heads a lot of the time training and doing long runs and track workouts with the coach and all that. So everything's kind of serendipity, and you get
I think the tough thing is if you lived in Boston, you had to run the Boston Marathon. And this is what happened also with Greg Meyer, who moved here in 78, the Boston area. I'm not from Boston. I'm from Newington, Connecticut. But when I moved to Boston, it was the same. You're from Massachusetts more than me. You're right next to Boston and Lowell. So you knew about Boston, and it influenced, I think, coaches, cross country and track. And don't you think so? And Coach Squire?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the minute you told anyone you were a runner, that would be the first thing they would say is to have you run Boston Marathon, because that was the one event that pretty much everybody knew about. Randy Thomas from Fitchburg and Dickie Mahoney from Weymouth. We're all, a lot of us were just local within 25 miles of Boston. And, if you were good in college and wanted to continue, there weren't too many avenues. And then Greater Boston came along. I mean, you always had the old clubs, the BAA and the North Medford Club, but they were really, old timey. I mean,
Doc Semple was at the BAA.
For the young guys coming up with I like the old timers. Some of the road races, you would go to. I couldn't believe how much fun these guys were having. I mean, I ran the Mount Washington road race when I was 18 because I liked hiking, as you mentioned, and I just found out there was a race up the mountain. So I went up there and with two friends of mine, and most of the people running this race, that's a different breed. It's a different breed of people from who you would see at a all-comers track meet or something. These guys, they're hardcore, and they are out to have a good time and run up a mountain. So we did the thing, and we were the youngest guys there by far, and then they gave us some beer, and I mean, we had Jock Semple giving out the awards, and there was maybe 100 people there.
Well, Bob, there's only one hill.
Only one hill. That was
How many times did you win Mount Washington?
I won it 7 times. That just got superseded by Joe Gray from lives in Alamosa, I believe. I got to meet him last year, and a real nice guy. He's more he's more into the trail and road racing. I don't think he runs too many, track or road races. He's a big trail runner. Goes to Europe and runs that whole circuit over there. But anyway, he got 8 wins now. I had 5 in a row, and then I didn't run it for a while. It used to, if I wanted to run the track nationals, they usually fell at just about the same weekend.
And Bob, there was no prize money at New Hampshire. At the Mount Washington road race. I thought of running it myself at one time, and I thought I was into marathon. Thought it would hurt my marathoning. But is there prize money today? There's a sponsor. I think Delta Dental is a sponsor.
Yeah, there is some prize money. I don't remember exactly what it is. I used to get a small appearance fee. They give me a couple $100 or something to come up, and then they say, "Well, if you break the course record, well, we'll give you 1,000 or something if you break the record."
Well, how old is Mount Washington today?
The road race?
Yeah.
There were like 2 eras. It was run back in the 1930s for a while, and then during the war, they stopped having it, and they didn't start it up again until 1960. And they asked Jock Semple to organize it, and he brought Johnny Kelly up there, John J. Kelly, and Johnny won it. He was the first Boston winner to win Mount Washington.
And who's the British runner who was an Olympian, I think, who ran it, and his son was a super high school runner?
Yeah, Ed Norris.
Yes,
Ed Norris had the course record, which he set when he was 41 years old, and I broke his record. And Jock Semple was almost like angry with me for breaking his record, because him and Ed were, he said, "You broke the record of a great runner."
But it's kind of fluky.
It's not like I won anything.
Yeah.
Back in those days, the race would Jock would get all these awards from different places, and you just picked whatever you wanted. So if you finished first, you got the first pick. So you could pick some giant trophy, or you could pick a little plate or whatever. And it had some nice things engraved on it. One year I asked Jock, I said, "Jock, is this real silver?" And he started chasing me around, because he used to brag about how he went out. I had to go out and get all these awards. I went to all these places. Yeah. And those were some fun days looking back.
It's kind of sad that Jock his reputation, when he tried to take Kathy Switzer's number from her during the Boston Marathon in 68, I think, or 7.
The best worst thing that ever happened. I mean, Jock, it's hard to defend Jock. Every time I start defending him, I say, "Oh, this is hopeless." Because people have that image in their mind, and they don't understand all of the good things that the guy did.
Yeah,
and
he had a lot of other parts to his character besides stopping Catherine from running.
But Kathy Switzer and Jock became great friends later, and that's
yes.
Well,
it didn't hurt running overall. It helped women's running tremendously. The fact that he did that was almost like, if he hadn't done that, we would have set back women's running a couple of years. Don't you think?
A lot of times those quote negative responses get the attention, and the attention then, is what's required to make things move forward.
I think that's exactly what happened. I mean, that picture's iconic. It looks like he's trying to, wrestle her to the ground. He was really just trying to get her number.
Yeah.
Because he was so incensed that she entered under false pretenses. She entered as Kay Switzer. And, if she had tried to enter as Catherine, there's no way she would have got a number. And he's always insisted that she's always signed her name that way.